We're talking with E Thomalen from Towson, Maryland, who won the stage play contest for his really terrific stage play, The Night Watchman. How's it going, E?
Good. I was very pleased with the production, or with the reading, the stage reading that was done. I was very impressed with the actors and the work that they did with it.
Oh, great! That was what I was just about to ask you. What did anything that stood out for you with the watching the reading?
Well, I thought the actor who played the captain did a really good job in being able to both have the commanding presence to be captain of the Essex, and also at the same time to assume a role, a somewhat defensive role, which is appropriate in the inquiry, the search as to what the cause was for the sinking of the vessel that he had been captain of.
Yeah, it's quite the role for any actor. Hopefully, it will be produced a little bit more in the future. The actor really loved playing this role, and I think you were suggesting during your emails that the more he got into it, the more he during the reading, the more he was understanding this character.
Yes, I think that's true, and I think actually that applied to all the actors. The more as they got into the parts, they really began to feel the parts and to occupy the parts, and that was very, very nice to see.
So why the Night Watchman? It's based on a true story. You were talking. The lead actor was telling me that he did a lot of research even before the reading about this guy, like how fascinating he is. And why this play? Why the stage play version of it? And then why were you so interested in the story?
Right. Well, I got interested in the story. I'm a great fan of Herman Melville's, and particularly his Moby Dick, which is just a wonderful novel. Moby Dick has never been very well done on the stage, I don't think, because it's just too complex to put on the stage. But it turns out that actually Melville really based a lot of the story on the sinking of the Essex. In fact, not only that, but he knew and had met and had seen the book that was published about the sinking of the Essex, and he had met one of the people who knew the principles of that story, the story of the Essex, the story of the Night Watchman, and so that led me to it. And I went to Nantucket. At that time, I had a daughter who was working there, and she was going to college in Boston, but she had a summer job there, and I went there to see her while she was there, and then I became more familiar with the story of Pollard, and that really led me into thinking about the play and how this could be done on stage. In a sense, it tells much of the many of the conflicts that are in Moby Dick, but it tells it in a way that's more skeletal in a sense.
Thematically, what's this play about? Like, what are you trying to say with this play?
Well, I think one has to kind of understand what the issues are. I mean, when it's easy to become captain, or it's comfortable to become captain, but actually there are some. You are from time to time put into very difficult situations where there are no right choices, and you have to live with those choices, or the choices that you make, even though many people will in fact criticize you for them. And I think that certainly is the story of Pollard in the play, and it has a profound impact on him. He eventually never goes to sea again, and spends the rest of his life as a night watchman. And I think that's where there's a wonderful poem by Cardinal John Henry Newman, where I'll just read it briefly, where he talks about the soul is talking. He says, "Take me away, and in the lowest deep there let me be. There in the hope the lone night watches keep doled out for me. They're motionless and happy in my pain, lone, not forlorn. There will I sing my sad perpetual strain until the morn. There will I sing and soothe my stricken breast, which in air can cease to throb and pine and languish, till possessed of its soul peace." And I think this is really a description of kind of where Pollard ends up. And so it's quite a tragic story, but nevertheless, I think an important one.
Well, we were talking afterwards about with the actors about like the psychology of the circumstance. Like in today's world, there's no way he would get a second ship. They would never allow him to get a second ship, right? And then, what's that?
I think you're right. I don't think he would be able to get a second.
Just from the economics, we were talking. I was like sort of dark humor kind of analogy where it's like as someone who gets in a plane crash, they never allow them to fly again because it's so traumatic to them. But at the same time, it's worth so much money for like a ship. And a plane is worth so much money, but if someone's a soldier, they give them different tours because there's no money at stake, I guess, for the soldier, correct? You know what I mean?
Right.
It just sort of got into when I was directing the play with the actors. It was like it was really the psychology of this man. And did you research like what were people think about like head shrinkers or like? Did they even think about the psychology of human beings, like what they've gone through war, or thinking of a ship back in that time?
Well, yeah, and Melville himself had some traumas, and it was interesting when that he actually made a visit and met Pollard, and he made it a point to meet Pollard. And after he had written Moby Dick, and I think Moby Dick, in a sense, was an attempt to sort of come to terms with some of his own traumas from his experience, both growing up and also at sea. And it was also interesting that other people also tried to see and tried to meet Pollard, he in a certain way, Emerson, I believe, was the other person who had come to try to meet him, because he also wanted to meet somebody who had such an unusual experience, such a frightening and perhaps overwhelming experience. So I think he is somebody who draws people who have those kinds of traumas. Because they want to know somebody who survived.
Especially a captain, because it's the cliche: a captain goes down with a ship, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And did you think he wanted to die? You think he would have been more happier if he just died in one of those sinkings?
No, I think absolutely.
I
think there's no question. I think he would have, had he had the choice. I think he probably would have gone down with it. But that wasn't the way it played out.
How long did he live after he lived like another 50 years?
Yeah, he lived a long time, and died an old man. But he was something like 27, 28 at the time. I was thinking the Essex probably wasn't older than 30 by the time the other ship had gone down, the two brothers, and so he spent the rest of probably the next 40 or 50 years just as the Night Watchman. And I think to say this the Night Watchman is a little difficult for us to grasp because we don't know exactly what it means. But this was an island where there was a Pacific Club, and all of the captains and some of the mates and others who were prominent on the island because of the fishing would meet and talk about their times at sea and so on. And to be only the Night Watchman is a major come down. It's like going from being a general or something to being somebody who's doing KP.
But the question is that why didn't he just go to another career? Like, why didn't he leave it?
I think he was so traumatized that it wasn't possible.
It's fascinating, and one of the best scenes in the play was when the captain's like kind of explaining to him, like giving it's like almost like the precursor of the Doom. Like he's trying to tell the captain that, you know, watch out, and the captain just wants to hear none of it because he wants to move on with the sinking, right?
Yeah, right.
It's just interesting. Like it's like an interesting like human element where we're always like sometimes we're warned of things, but we don't want to listen to it because we're so headstrong.
Right. Well, right, and Rasmussen wants to say I've got other business, but Pollard, in order to tell the story, he needed the time and the space to tell the story.
Yeah.
And finally, Captain Worth sort of says, "Well, let me tell the story of the Essex first. Just take down what you need to know about the two brothers." And so that allows him to go ahead. But initially, Ransome doesn't want to hear it. He just wants to get the facts, and I want to get out of there. I got to get other things to do, and it's really hard. Yeah.
So what else do you like? What else you've produced? You've had a lot of I liked your little comment when we asked you the questions about like how you love the theater, correct?
I do love it. I love great theater. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're saying that your love for the theater kind of got you to write because you were disillusioned in the 80s. You were disillusioned by what you were watching.
I was disillusioned, and to some extent still am. I think most of what gets produced are two or three. This is really a symphony. The story of the Night Watchman is really a symphony. It requires a large and diverse group of performers, and in that sense it's sort of Shakespearean, I suppose you could say. But most of the theater that gets produced now, particularly on Broadway or any place, it tends to be two or three character and usually about something that's really not very mundane and very ordinary and very forgettable.
But it's also recycled. There's a lot, obviously, especially Broadway is recycled from the past, right?
Exactly. Right now, that seems to be the
or musical, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so for this particular play, it's something that's different than what you're used to seeing.
Yes, it is.
Do you think there's an audience for this play, like a huge audience for this play?
Huge? No.
No?
No. It's interesting, actually. The play was given the Hawaii Prize in June of 2013 by the University of Hawaii in one of the theaters on Hawaii, at the Pearl Harbor. But I had offered it actually to a theater on Nantucket at one point, and thinking that they would be interested because this is somebody who is a well-known figure and for which there's a lot of museum stuff on the island about him. And they said, "No, we only do comedies."
Well, but don't you think that people just want to? It's sort of like the movie analogy where they just want to escape. If they're going to leave their home, they want to have an escape.
Well, that's right. And I offered it at one point to a theater in the Berkshires, and they too, again, this is where Melville wrote Moby Dick, and again knew, and certainly Pollard was an important person to him, and this is a whaling story. But again, the same response was, "Well, no, we don't do that." Okay, whatever. At one point, it was interesting. At one point, I kind of decided I would visit the places where Melville had lived or had been. So I went up to New York State. I went up to the capital in Albany, because Melville had gotten a very fine classical education at the Albany Academy. It was really a very fine, but he is able to say all kinds of very, very fine references to classical literature. And so one day I saw where the Albany Academy was now, but I knew that the buildings were much too new and it had been someplace else in his day, because it couldn't have been where these buildings were. So I looked around and couldn't find it, and finally I called the library up there. And I said, could you tell me where the Albany School was that Herman Melville went to? And they said, Herman who?
Yeah.
So that tells us something about where things are.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But it's just one of the. I guess. Where do you think the future? Do you think there will be a renaissance, like a non-musical kind of theater renaissance coming up in the future?
Well, I think there will be. I don't know how long it'll take to reach that point, but I think these things are kind of seem to move in cycles or something.
Yeah.
And so I think at some point there will be a change and shift in sensibilities, but right now it's not there, and money seems to be determining, right, and art what goes up.
It's defined about culture. It's about a certain community decides that theater is hip, and then all of a sudden they put a lot of money into it, and all of a sudden it becomes hip again. It's sort of like there's this usually if you follow the money and then the money likes theater, then theater gets alive. But also too, it's like, just from the actor's point of view, the actors love performing this play at the reading, just doing a reading itself, like sitting down and just doing a reading and trying to serve your story, because there's so many juicy roles in it for them. It's like true acting for them, even when they're sitting down reading their scripts, right?
I'm pleased to hear that. Yeah, that's great.
And it's but something like, it's almost like in the power of the performer, where the more this is true acting for them. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like not that TV or movies are not acting. But it's a very mechanical, structural kind of environment, right? Where there's a lot of freedom within the theater.
Yeah, that was great.
So I hope to see your film produced again, because I think that we'll try to get a good following online and get some hits for you, and because this is a really good play, and I was very proud to showcase it.
I'm thrilled that you did it, and I'm very impressed with what you put up. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much for this.
Thank you.